All right, welcome into the post-game show, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. I'm Dan Tanner for In the Paint. We got Nuggets, Sixers here at Ball Arena this evening, a TNT game. The Nuggets just absolutely obliterated the Philadelphia 76ers. No Joel Embiid in this game for the 76ers. So before we get into the game, I was just going to mention, it's been 5.5 years now that Joel Embiid has played a game in Denver. And in fact, in the fourth quarter, when this thing was definitely over, we started to get a "Where's Embiid at" chant here in Ball Arena, where I am sitting high above the court right now. I was just thinking about this before the game. It's really unfortunate that Embiid has not been able to play in a lot of these matchups because it really is sort of a missed opportunity for the league to promote two of their biggest stars and have sort of a budding rivalry that we saw come to a culmination a couple of years ago when it was the MVP race between Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. But it's just too bad that they haven't been able to really keep that rivalry going. And it's definitely just something that the league, I'm sure, has really been disappointed in, I guess, and Joel just he has not been available to play in a lot of these games. So it really is too bad. But the game itself, excellent win for the Nuggets tonight. 144-109 is the final. The Nuggets absolutely dominate. Paul George looked like he didn't understand he was playing a basketball game in Denver tonight, because I thought his effort was absolutely atrocious in the first half specifically. And I will just say, for a little bit of insider information for all of you listening, we were just downstairs, right before Coach Malone came into the press room to give his post-game press conference. And for those of you who don't know, the opposing team's locker room is the room right behind where Malone talks, in the main press room here at Ball Arena. So you can hear a lot of stuff going on in there. You can hear the music being played. It was kind of a thing last year when the Nuggets lost to the Wolves in the playoffs. You could hear music blaring. You could hear those guys going off. Well, tonight, there was somebody or several people in the Sixers locker room screaming at the top of their lungs, dropping F-bombs left and right. I mean, it was wild, like to the point where all of us sitting in there waiting for Michael Malone quieted down and we're just listening to what was going on. So did the effort from the 76ers, specifically in the first half, have a part to play in that? I would assume so, but that was something really interesting. This Sixers team is at a crossroads right now, and it was a very odd situation that we could hear through the walls here at Ball Arena. They were going off in the locker room. So that was definitely something that I would keep an eye on and an ear out for in the next couple of days, and we'll see if anybody's reporting on that, because it was pretty crazy in there. So into the game itself tonight, I thought the player of the game tonight was Julian Strawther. He was phenomenal. 5 3-pointers for Julian. I thought overall, consistency wise, it was his best game of the year. And it really looks like we're starting to see Julian develop into a legitimate NBA player. And not only that, but a player that can really help this team come playoff time. I really do think, and Peyton Watson too, by the way, but Julian has really seemed to find his shooting stroke. And if you just kind of go by the numbers month to month so far this year, in the month of October, Julian averaged 7.5 points per game. Then we get to November, where he averages 8.8. Then December, where it's 9.4. And in the month of January, it's now 10.5. And that's going to be higher after tonight's game, probably closer to 11. So every single month this season, Julian Strawther has incrementally been getting better as far as his offensive production goes. And this is a really, really good sign for the Nuggets team. I said at the beginning of the year, him and Peyton Watson, specifically coming off the bench, were going to be absolutely key for this team, who is in a salary cap crunch. And these are two players on rookie deals that are cheap. They have to produce this year. And I got to say, over the last month and a half, 2 months, Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther have been terrific for this team. And it's been great to see. And we'll see, how much higher Julian Strawther can continue to go as the season moves along. But he was terrific tonight. Again, what did Julian shoot tonight? He was 8 of 14 from the field overall, 5 of 9 from beyond the arc. He hit 4 threes in that second quarter and was absolutely terrific. He had a lightning quick release going tonight, which was great. 23 points, which I believe is a season high for Julian Strawther. Absolutely fantastic. And speaking of the bench, Michael Malone did talk about Aaron Gordon potentially coming off the bench. And we're going to go to Malone's presser right now because there's a lot of really good stuff in here. He was asked specifically in this about Aaron Gordon coming off the bench and how selfless Aaron Gordon's response was. So we're going to head out there right now and hear from Nuggets head coach Michael Malone.
Nikola, again, doesn't have to play in the fourth quarter, getting his minutes down. He's putting up triple doubles in 3 quarters. Can you help us understand, contextualize this in terms of his greatness right now?
No, I don't think I can. I don't think any words I say will do him justice, to be very honest. I think we've been talking about it for years. Um, I often say it, the best player in the world. And how many games, you guys should know this. How many games in a row is that where he and Russ didn't play in the fourth quarter? 4 in a row, right? And that's huge. I mean, like, obviously, we're a little more than halfway point in the season. And for him to have to play down the stretch to rest his body, for Russ to have a chance to rest his body, that's invaluable as we move forward. We know what the Western Conference is, how deep it is, how talented it is, and things are just getting started. I love the fact that we're playing at a high level. It was nice to win a game at home. We've done a great job on the road. We got to do a better job protecting our house, and we did that tonight against a team that's struggling. But we know that they, when they're healthy, they're a pretty talented team in Philadelphia. But yeah, Nikola is just incredible. He impacts the game across the board. But the great thing about it, he's getting contributions from a lot of people. I mean, we talk about Nikola a lot, but Aaron Gordon and Julian off the bench were outstanding tonight. Michael Porter was super efficient. We had 39 fast break points. Christian Brown just running and finishing. So it's a good team win. We did a lot of really good things tonight, and it's great that we didn't have to play those guys.
Julian scored well tonight, but in general with this game, I'm curious to what extent you've seen growth from the start of the year till now for him.
Yeah, I think every night's an opportunity for him to grow and improve and build confidence. Um, you look at his 23 points tonight and 5 of 9 from the three. And what I like about it is that he's just being really aggressive to get downhill and attack. He's a really good finisher, shooting the 3 ball with no hesitation. And that's what we need from him coming off that bench. We need him to be a weapon, a guy that can provide a scoring boost. And I've said this before about Julian. For him, his greatest challenge is to continue to work on the defensive end. And I thought he had some great examples tonight of fighting and being physical. And that's all we're ever going to ask of him is just to give your best and be disciplined in everything you do. And I think Julian's put together a really nice stretch for us coming off the bench.
Only 15 points allowed in the fourth quarter. What does it say about this group that despite going into that final frame, being up so big, they remained locked in on that final score?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I've seen this, sadly enough, too many times where we've been up big and then you go into a fourth quarter and then we get away from what helped us build the lead. We get soft with success and we start just trying to get our numbers, whatever it may be. And going out on the floor before the fourth quarter started, we had veterans talking about, hey, let's come out here and play the right way. I reminded them this is about building habits. It's not about tonight necessarily, but as we move forward. And the guys did that. They played at a high level. They defended. We executed. We moved the ball. 39 assists, obviously, is a great number. So yeah, it speaks to guys being professional in their approach, which was great to see.
As you've seen more of it, what does Aaron Gordon coming off the bench and playing with that second unit allow that unit to do?
Well, it gives us a Swiss Army knife that can initiate offensively as a point forward. You can play through him in the post, which I think this is 5 games now, Katie, since he's been back. And first game in Dallas, the Miami game, and tonight, he's just been outstanding in those 3 games. But just he can do so many things for you. And then when he's shooting the 3-point shot like he has been, now it's like, well, how are you going to guard this guy? Because if you run him off, he can get down the floor, finish, dunk on you, but also make plays for his teammates because he's such a good passer and a willing passer. So, yeah, Aaron has been outstanding for us, and it's good to see him kind of building back, getting confidence, getting a rhythm with that unit.
There's so much politics in the NBA, and that's just part of it.
There is.
With being a coach, what's been kind of your approach to this? What's been Aaron's kind of response to you with his role in all this? How are you managing that?
Look, all I'll say is this, without getting into too many details. Before Aaron's first game in Dallas, I talked to him about what his minute restriction was going to be that night, as well as what would be moving forward, just to give him an idea so he could wrap his head around that. And the first thing he said to me was, Coach, we're playing really well. He goes, if you want to bring me off the bench, even when I'm healthy, bring me off the bench. And I'm not saying I'm going to do that, but I want everybody to know who Aaron Gordon is. That is selfless to a T. And we've seen that from him time and time again. But what I love about our group is that we have a bunch of guys, and it starts with Nikola and trickles down to everybody else that just want to win. Like Nikola's not, I need more shots, I need more touches. He's just happy we're winning. Aaron Gordon is happy that we're winning. And if it's best for us to bring him off the bench, then we'll do that. If it's best for us to start Aaron Gordon, then we'll do that. And we'll make that decision when we come to that point. But I just want everybody to know how special of a person Aaron Gordon is and how he views this, not about him, but about what's best for the team. And I love that about him.
Okay, so there was the part I really wanted to get to. Michael Malone talking about the selflessness there of Aaron Gordon. And that's a really good sort of just barometer or whatever the case may be for this team. That's not just Aaron Gordon, that's not just Nikola Jokic. That really is this entire team. And to hear Malone talk about Aaron Gordon like that, saying, even when he's not on a minutes restriction, even when he's back fully healthy, all he cares about is winning. And it's interesting because we talked about, like, would Aaron Gordon accept a role coming off the bench? Is that something that he would be open to? And you just heard it from Malone right there. He absolutely would be. So that was really cool to hear. And I liked hearing it because the Nuggets have been kicking ass with Aaron Gordon coming off the bench. And Malone goes on to talk about, the benefits of bringing him off the bench. He's a Swiss Army knife. He can shoot the three when it's working. He's nearly impossible to guard. So, man, that's some really good stuff there from head coach Michael Malone. All right, let's bring in our guy KJ Granderson, who wants to hop on the show, talk a little Nuggets basketball with us. KJ, I don't know if you were able to hear Malone there, but he was just talking about in his post-game presser, Aaron Gordon coming off the bench. And he was asked, what kind of politics are involved when it comes to stuff like that. And Malone said, look, Aaron Gordon told me straight up, the first game I told him about his minutes restriction, I'm fine coming off the bench. I'm fine starting. I'm fine doing whatever this team needs me to do as long as we're winning. We've known this forever about Nikola Jokic. Like, he really doesn't care about the stats and the MVPs and the accolades. He cares about winning championships. It was really cool to hear that. And it made me perk up, KJ, because like we've talked about and we've been talking about over this, 5-game stretch now where we've seen Aaron Gordon coming off the bench, this team is figured something out with the second unit, which I would say, and I don't know if you'd agree with this or not, but probably one of, if not the worst second units up to this point in the NBA. That second unit has been phenomenal since Aaron Gordon has been coming off the bench. So that was really, really cool to hear there from Malone talking about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, Aaron Gordon, he just brings an entirely different game to the second unit. Like, his ability to kind of control the pace, bring the ball up the court, draw attention that the second unit, that no other guy on the second unit usually can draw. And it's like Aaron Gordon has the ability to kind of be like this orbiting factor where, like, Aaron Gordon was a star in Orlando, but he was never a superstar. And I think teams still recognize
He was the best player on a bad team.
That's the best way to explain it, you know.
Right.
And when you look at what he still encapsulates in regards to bringing that effort, that energy, and being able to be a all-in-one player, he just has the ability to draw a defense from a second unit that no other player can. And I think it opens up the floor for a guy like Julian Strawther. It gives Christian Brown the ability to cut. It gives Peyton Watson a chance to do different things. He just adds an element that they just did not have. My question is, how long can Malone hold himself? Because we know that the day is coming when Aaron Gordon is going to get back in that starting lineup. I just listen. My biggest hope is by the time he gets back in the starting lineup, the confidence of the bench will be at a place to where it's not an issue anymore, where he doesn't have to worry about consistency. But for some reason, if the bench starts to go from here back down, does he have it within him to say, AG, I love you, bro, but what you bring for us off the bench means way more to me than what you bring to us in the starting lineup. And that's going to be the next evolution for Malone, to be able to make that hard decision. I'm sorry, this is a championship team. This is, when I say everything is about how you finish, not how you start, that's what the Denver Nuggets are right now.
Interesting. So you think it's more of a Malone thing, bringing him back off the bench versus an Aaron Gordon willingness or unwillingness to come off the bench. And I got to say, man, like, Malone's pretty stubborn. He is. But I will give him some credit, you know, and we've talked about this a little bit throughout the course of this season. Malone's pretty hard-headed when it comes to certain things. And I think there's positives about that, being an NBA head coach, and I think there's some negatives. Well, the positive I'm seeing so far this year, KJ, is he has been willing to experiment with the lineups a little bit. We saw that tonight. I mean, there was it was in the first quarter. Let me pull up my notes here. So, you know, with just 3 or 4 minutes to go there in that first quarter, you had Jamal, Watson, and Strawther come back into the game. Well, Jamal came back into the game. Then they bring off Watson and Strawther off the bench to play with Jokic and Gordon to finish the quarter. That's something that I haven't seen this year. So you know, I will say Malone has shown a little bit of growth in that area, but you're right, man. Like, that's what it's going to come down to, is playoff time, or at least down the stretch into March and April, when these games really start to ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
Is Malone going to be disciplined enough to stick with something that's working now in the playoffs, or is he going to revert back to what he's more comfortable with? I think that's really kind of the question that needs to be answered.
No, agreed. Listen, if I'm Coach Malone, I need to have an honest conversation with myself. I need to look in the mirror and say, look, I have found something that works, and I don't need to go away from it. It's the old saying we've heard a gajillion times. Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think that's where the Nuggets are right now. You know, I heard Raj talking about it today towards the end of the show. Raj was saying that if you look at the Nuggets' next 15 games or so, it's, you know, you got a couple of tough ones in there. But for the most part, the rest of the schedule for the next, 13 to 15 is going to be pretty easy. He said if they don't go at least 12-3 in the next 15, it's a mistake, because the Nuggets have found a rhythm. They've only lost 3 games since December 28th. They found something. And Malone has to be honest with himself and say, I have to stick with what works, not with what I want to do. We all have a lot riding on the line. You remember that big piece that came out from Ramona Shelburne earlier this year where MPJ said, if we don't get it done, they'll break this thing up. Well, even Malone understands that. Malone just became the winningest head coach in Denver Nuggets history. And he even understands that if they don't get a championship this year, there's going to be a whole new level of pressure he has not felt since he's been in Denver. So he has to understand that with all of that in the very, very near future, okay, if they don't get this done, they're going to look back on a moment where they had success and Malone took what was working away from the chemistry that they were building so that he could feel better about having Aaron Gordon in a role that Aaron Gordon was more than okay not being in so that the Nuggets could continue to succeed long term.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right. Okay, let's switch gears here a little bit. Julian Strawther tonight. I thought it was his best performance of the year. I believe it was a season high. He had 23 points, hit 4 3-pointers in the second quarter. By the way, I know Joel Embiid was not out there. The Sixers defense is terrible. Okay, let me just start with that. Paul George's effort in the first quarter specifically, I thought was atrocious. I started the show with this, KJ. And for all of those who didn't hear this, I got a little bit of insight for you all. So we were just down in the press room waiting for Malone to walk in, okay? And here at Ball Arena, they've got the press room, dining area, all that in one room. There's a wall, where you see the Nuggets and Avs graphics for Bednar and Malone, okay? That back wall right there. Well, behind that is the opposing team's locker room, okay? And, last year it was kind of a thing. The Nuggets, when they lost Game 7 here at Ball Arena to the Wolves, you could hear them just going berserk in there
Just
through the wall.
Party,
the music bumping, you could hear the bass dropping every beat. Well, tonight, KJ, there was audible screaming, and I'm not saying because some people will be like, this person screamed at me. I'm like, they talked at you loudly. No, this was screaming. We could hear F-bombs being dropped in there. Man, this it got to the point, KJ, where everybody in the media room started to understand what was going on and everybody stopped talking. We were just listening to what we could hear in the Sixers locker room. And then Malone walked in 30 seconds later. But dude, I tell you what, for all of the ups and downs the Nuggets have had this year, they are not anywhere close to what the Sixers are going through. And I talk about this all the time. It's hard for me to say because I'm not in other teams' locker rooms a lot, but I am in this team's locker room quite a bit. And I've said this for years and years now. This is a very, very tight-knit, close, family-like atmosphere in that locker room. I've never been I've been in Nuggets locker rooms where they're pissed off after bad games, sure. But nothing like we just heard there. I mean, my God. And I've got to wonder, because Paul George's effort in the first quarter specifically was so putrid and pathetic that had to have had something to do with it. And so I'm going to keep an ear and an eye out for if there's any reports coming out of exactly what happened in there. But I tell you what, man, it was wild listening to that. And everybody in the media room was like, oh boy, something's going down in the Sixers locker room.
Listen, imagine being a Sixers beat writer and you have to go in that locker room and you have to go talk to those players.
Yeah. Seriously. Hopefully that was post yelling. They had to go into the locker room after the screaming match. But I'm telling you, man, it was wild. So everybody listening, keep an ear out for that or check Gina Mizell. If you remember Gina, great writer. She covered the Nuggets here for a couple years in Denver, moved on. I believe she's from Arizona. She covered the Suns for a season or two. Now she's in Philly. So actually I might text with Gina here later tonight and just be like, hey, anything going on there with the team? But speaking of the Sixers, and it's been 5.5 years now, KJ, that Joel Embiid has played in a game in Denver. And it's interesting. Malone was asked before the game today. This is the rivalry week in the NBA, which I appreciate the NBA trying to drum up rivalries, but let's be honest, rivalries in the NBA right now are dead.
They are. You got a couple of select players that hate each other, but it's not enough to drive.
Right. It's more player, but to the point where Malone was asked, hey, any rivalries that stand out? Your time here in Denver, he's like, none that I can really think of. So, but my point is, it I know Embiid gets a lot of crap from Nuggets fans for not playing in Denver, and whether those issues are legitimate or not, who knows. But it does kind of suck just as a basketball fan. I think there was a real opportunity for the league to have like this historical center rivalry for the next decade between Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. And it really started a couple years ago in the MVP race that Embiid inevitably won, wrongfully so. And that really
Agreed.
kind of was like the start of it. And then, it's just sort of fizzled out because Embiid hasn't been able to play. But I just kept thinking to myself, like, man, what an unfortunate missed opportunity, not at the fault of the league or the players. Embiid's dealing with injuries. It happens. But it's like, man, to me, that could have been one of the better rivalries, at least for this generation. And it's really unfortunate that it's sort of fizzled out here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree, man. It's frustrating because this had a chance to be kind of like, this had a chance to be like David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Will Kareem, Bill Russell. Like this had a chance to be up there with those level rivalries, man. And I just hate that we have missed this opportunity. Joel, he can't stay healthy. And honestly, even when he comes back, I don't know if it'll ever be the same Joel Embiid again. So even if they do match up again down the road, will it have the same effect? Will it have the same stick? Like, this is a new Sixers team. These aren't the same guys that came along with this rivalry when this thing first got started. I mean, it's a different day and age, and so I mean, first off, I blame this on the NBA, obviously, because they have done everything to take rivalries away, not lean into rivalries. And so we come into this age now where we look at Joel Embiid and we wonder, why doesn't he take these matchups serious? We're blaming on the NBA. They've done nothing to encourage players to take rivalry games seriously. And that's just the God honest truth. And I'll say this and then hand it back to you, Dan. So you were down in the post game, but I had a few minutes while I was waiting on you to get going to listen to TNT tonight, and I kind of wanted to hear what their thoughts were in regards to what they thought the main storyline of the game was, and it was not the game. Their biggest thing is the 76ers organization is failing Joel Embiid, and they believe that by putting Joel in the lineup, taking him out the lineup, putting him in the lineup, taking him out the lineup, it is failing everyone. I don't know if you saw the stats tonight, but when the big three is able to play together this year, they've only played 10 games together. When they are together, they are 7-3. But instead of focusing on getting Joel healthy for when they actually need him and focusing on getting the chemistry right for everybody else, he's been in and out of the lineup. And they're questioning what is the Sixers organization doing. Well, guess what? As you mentioned earlier, the Nuggets don't have to worry about that. So when we talk about rivalries, is it really a rivalry? We're talking about an organization that, we don't understand what they're necessarily doing with the bench, but we also understand that they're cap strapped. You know what I mean? The Nuggets organization overall is in a very good place. The 76ers organization, man, they are in a clouded place. You handed out 3 max contracts this offseason, and you cannot get out of any of them.
See, I mean, I kind of get that, but I could also make the argument that Embiid is failing the organization in a way. And maybe
Wow.
that's not
Okay.
really fair for me to say because, look, Joel has unfortunately proven over the course of his career that he just can't stay healthy. And
Yes,
knocking on
I
wood
agree.
here in Connor's hockey booth. But to me, that's been one of the biggest differences between he and Nikola Jokic. And I think that's where Nikola Jokic has really separated himself in the conversation from just a couple of years ago is not only his ability on the court. I think Joker is just a better overall player, although Embiid probably is a much better defender. But Joker's availability has been so much better than Joel Embiid. And, this is not anything that's like should be super surprising to anybody because of the way that Joker plays the game. He's not jumping 4 feet into the air, throwing down alley-oop dunks. That's going to save a lot of wear and tear on his body, you know? And that's why I've always said, if Joker doesn't want to retire at age 33 and just walk into the sunset and go back to Sombor, Serbia and ride horses all day and drink beer at night, like, you know, more power to him. But Nikola has the type of game where he can be super effective into his late 30s easily, in my opinion. So that's really been, you know, I think the number one catalyst of Nikola Jokic just absolutely taking over the mantle of or separating himself. He's always had it, but he's really separated himself in that discussion between he and Embiid from a couple of years ago. He's been available, man. He's been able to play. So, you know, that's really where I think Nikola Jokic has been able to run away with this thing. Last thing here, KJ, and I had our guy Eli in the chat ask earlier if you and I think, or here it is, right here. Eli says, "Do you think the Nuggets can win a championship this year?" I'll let you answer first, and then I've got some thoughts on that.
Okay,
as the team is constituted right now.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, answering the question directly, can they win? Yes, they can win. Like, as long as Nikola Jokic is healthy, like you said, knock on wood, you know, as long as he's healthy, they can do anything they want to do. Will they? That's the real question.
Are they legitimate title contenders, in your estimation?
I am going to say yes, and let me kind of lay it out for you. OKC is still going through growing pains. Houston, they're overachieving. They are by far not even ready. Dallas, they're dealing with health issues. Phoenix, what are they doing? Minnesota, we don't know. Sacramento, you already fired your coach. You're still up and down. Golden State, LA, I can go down the list. We can keep going in the West. That in itself automatically makes the Nuggets championship contenders. What will keep them in the conversation, not just have them in the conversation, what will keep them in the conversation is what we talked about 20 minutes ago, Dan. Can Malone allow himself to go to a place where he knows Aaron Gordon's best role is coming off the bench to open things up for the shooters? That's what will help the Nuggets. We know Aaron Gordon will still end up playing anywhere between 32 to 34 minutes come playoff time. But between now and the playoffs, can Malone allow himself, his head, his heart, can he allow those two things to come together and do what's right for the sake of the Nuggets winning and putting themselves in position? I don't want to say to avoid OKC, but see OKC as late as possible. OKC is just not the greatest matchup for the Nuggets. But if the Nuggets can get stronger through the playoffs, then you can probably play them at the latest in the Western Conference Finals. But then all bets are off. You know what's on the other side of the Western Conference Finals. Nobody has to motivate you. Nobody has to talk strategies anymore. You know what I mean? And so I think the Nuggets are championship contenders. What will keep them there is what do you do with Aaron Gordon?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's funny, in Malone's presser tonight, he talked about Aaron being a catalyst at the backup five, and that's something we've talked about a lot this year and something I've been harping on all season, saying I don't think they're good enough in that area. Now, what I will say is Malone reiterated tonight, KJ, that that's the plan in the playoffs. Like, he's like, we've done it before. It won us a championship. We're very comfortable doing that, is what Malone said. And, you know, I guess that's the plan, because honestly, like, as much as I've been harping on the backup five this year, which I do think it is an issue, I think they can get around it, at least for this season, with playing Aaron Gordon at the backup five. Now, my concern with that has been what we saw at the end of last year. These guys were ran into the ground. Now, it is a little bit different this year because Aaron Gordon has missed so many games that, you know, that is a negative that he missed the games, but it's kind of a positive in another sense that he's not played in as many games, right? And they're going to be more fresh coming down the stretch. So, that now that I've thought about it, really kind of dug into that, I do think they're going to be okay for this year as far as the backup five, with the plan of Aaron Gordon filling that role in the playoffs. Coach Malone was very specific about that. When it comes to the Nuggets, are they legitimate championship contenders? If you would have asked me this question a month ago, or let's just say the Christmas night game against Phoenix, I would have said, I don't think so. No. But to your point, the revelation of Aaron Gordon coming off the bench, which nobody saw coming as that being the solution to fixing all
Serious.
the second unit issues, and Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson really playing well over the last month and a half, 2 months, has given me at least the confidence that I do think this team has enough pieces to where they can definitely at least compete to get out of the Western Conference.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree 1000%. And as long as those two guys continue to step up, I think the Nuggets bench will continue to exceed expectations, quote unquote, because of their lack of talent. And we have a promo running on the station from your guy, Scotty. You know what I mean? He's talking about if the Nuggets don't want to win a championship, just let them keep doing what they're doing as far as their lackadaisical nature. But if they want to win a championship, Julian Strawther has to continue to take that next step this season. And Peyton Watson has to just continue to keep doing what he's doing, but just be consistent. His consistency will raise his game. And I think from the time Scotty said what he said a couple of weeks ago to now, the Nuggets have absolutely done that. Julian Strawther has been an absolute monster from three. Peyton Watson's been a menace on the defensive side of the ball. Aaron Gordon, he just, like I said, man, he's like the Earth in a galaxy. He just draws so much attention. And when you look at that whole package, it's just like, I think the Nuggets, if they know what's best for them, they just have to stay the course. I think that's going to be the most important thing for them. Being able to understand that, okay, AG's here, Julius Strawther's here, Peyton Watson's here, and maybe you stagger Russ or Jamal Murray, or maybe you stagger MPJ, whatever they figure out works best for that other fourth guy. You just got to do what you got to do. What we have learned, Dan, and I'll leave it here. Christian Brown is the odd man out right now if we've been looking at the rotations, and I think it's an early sign of what's to come.
What do you mean odd man out?
If you look at how the rotations have been staggered here lately between the first going to the second and the third going to the fourth, there's no starter who sits on the bench longer than Christian Brown.
Okay.
And I think we're kind of seeing the early signs of what may come if Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson play like they need to, if I'm being extremely honest.
Interesting. Okay. And, honestly, it's kind of coincided with Christian Brown playing pretty well over the last couple of weeks. So, look,
Agreed.
it's a good problem for the Nuggets to have. It really is amazing, KJ, how differently we're looking at this second unit right now from just a couple of weeks ago.
I know.
I mean, it's
I
like
know.
flipped on a head. And by the way, last thing I'll mention before we get you out of here. Well, the other thing that we haven't talked about as much as to why the Nuggets have been able to turn things around, they've been much better defensively. They've moved up to 15th overall in defense. And by the way, KJ, they were 15th overall in defense the year they won the championship. In fact, they've improved so much so on the defensive end that they're top 5 since January 1st. And Malone, before the game, was asked about that, and he's, point out one specific thing or the biggest area where this team has improved. He said it's been the 3-point defense. And that's something I've been criticizing all year long because it was putrid. And he's right. They have been much better defending the 3-point line, and you have to be at least somewhat competent in that area in today's game when basically every team in the league, other than the Nuggets, mind you, are jacking up 53s a game. So the defense is coming along. Having Aaron Gordon back really helps with that as well. I tell you what, man, it's by far the most optimistic I've felt all season long as far as the Nuggets being able to potentially win another championship. It's definitely the most optimistic I've been all year. So excellent
No,
stuff.
no, I'm with you 1,000%, Dan. I love their defense. I love where they are. They just got to be consistent. Consistency is the
Yeah,
key
that's
for
the
the
key.
Nuggets right now.
You're
That
right.
is the ultimate key. Yep.
It is. I've been saying that all year. KJ, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you jumping on.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you, my man.
All right, there he goes. KJ Granderson, everybody. All right, before we get out of here, speaking of the player of the game, my player of the game, self-designated, let's hear from Julian Strawther, everybody. He had 23 points tonight. He was absolutely phenomenal. And shout out to DMAC, by the way. He's getting all these for us. So here is Julian Strawther after the game.
He's playing that efficient, y'all playing so well that he didn't even have to go back in.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge for us is to be able to get big fellas some rest going into, the latter half of the season, especially going into All-Star break, try to give them an elongated break. So it's good for everybody.
Julian, it feels like you're moving really well out there, just understanding the sets that the team is running for you. Just what is working for you on that end right now, and just reading the court as well as you are?
I feel like it's a little bit of everything for me. Obviously, the shot's starting to fall a little bit more and, a little bit more to what I'm used to in terms of what my jump shot and the results that I want. And then just being able to go downhill and finish, that's been another part of my game that I've been working on, just being able to be, a guy that can score at all three levels.
Does Aaron Gordon being a part of that second unit coming off the bench with you help your game?
I mean, it's meant everything to me just because I feel like our skill sets complement each other so well, and we've been able to play in some, pick and roll, whether he's handling or I'm handling. So it's been real good to us, and then just having another guy that experienced, that talented, and just in our unit, it kind of just helps us all settle down some.
I noticed there was a moment when Coach Malone subbed you out, and then he ended up subbing you back in right away for Jamal, and he kind of pulled you aside and had a little conversation with you, and hit a couple shots. Like, what did he say in that moment that you're willing to share with us, and then having him coach you, but also believe in you in the way that he does?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Malone's always going to, get on me. I'm the young guy. I make a mistake every now and then. So, I got to be that guy. But, he's done such a great job just coaching me and, finding that balance of, being hard on me, but also being encouraging and telling me to go for it. So, I mean, he's giving me the green light, and that's all a, scorer like me can ask for from their coach.
Why is the team dominating right now?
I feel like everybody's kind of chipping in and everybody's doing their job. Sometimes when you watch the NBA, a lot of guys are trying to do someone else's job, and I feel like right now everybody's kind of finding their role and what works and what works for the team, and that's most important. And it's resulting in wins, and we've been able to see that and kind of just domino effect.
Last week, Jamal was saying that confidence was a big part. I see you maybe shooting a little better. Not that you're lacking confidence, but when they start to come in more easily, like you were talking about earlier in the offense, does that increase your confidence even more? And how do you, sustain that?
It definitely boosts a guy like me confidence. I'm in my second year, so these guys having that much faith in me to knock down shots and whether they're open catch and shoots or tough contested shots, these guys all have confidence in me to put the ball in the basket. So I mean, when Nikola Jokic is encouraging you to go get one, you got to go get one.
Julian, you talked before the season started about how excited you were to play with Russell Westbrook and how you watched him and loved his playmaking, but seeing him and Nikola on the floor together, can you describe what that's been like from your point of view?
I mean, every night when I go home and I watch the game over, I realize that I'm sharing the floor with Russell Westbrook and Nikola Jokic. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like you said, I grew up watching Russ, and then obviously Jokic is the best player in the world, and to see how well they've been able to complement each other and play alongside each other, get triple doubles together. I mean, it's been amazing.
You watching the game over for fun or for?
I mean, some days it's fun and some days it's not.
It's a statement, not a question, but you should watch Gladiator. I think you're gonna love that one.
I keep hearing about it. I have no idea what it is, though.
You're gonna like one.
Okay, there he is, Julian Strawther, everybody. That's fantastic. That's a mature young man right there, I got to tell you. And I tell you what, his game on the court is maturing as well, and he's really starting to look like a legitimate NBA player. So great stuff tonight from Julian Strawther. I'm telling you all, him and Peyton Watson, as far as like the survivability of this team in the playoffs, are going to be massive. Okay. And again, I understand that the benches will shorten come playoff time, but those two guys, like, they're going to have guys that can produce at various points throughout games in the playoffs when Nikola Jokic and the rest of the starters are not on the floor, or when they're staggering their starting lineups. So to see those two guys, specifically in Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson, really start to develop as NBA players and really start to make a difference on this team, I think has been a massive thing for me as far as my optimism for this team's success moving forward and their ability to win a title this year. And like I said with KJ, the 3-point defense has been much, much better. So excellent win here for the Nuggets tonight. 144 to 109 is the final. The Nuggets were crushing the Sixers so bad. They had 93 points at the 8-minute mark of the third quarter tonight. That's how you could say it one of two ways. Either the Nuggets offense was humming or the 76ers defense was atrocious. I think it might have been a little bit of a combination of both. But either way, the Nuggets get a huge victory over the 76ers here tonight at Ball Arena. They have been rolling over the last couple of weeks. Like KJ said, they've lost only 3 games since December 28th. So that's been absolutely fantastic to see. And again, Julian Strawther was phenomenal tonight. I think his best game of the season so far. Looking at the standings right now in the West, the Nuggets improved to 27-16 on the year. It's the first time they've been 11 games over 500 on the season. They're just a game back of Memphis. They're a game and a half back of Houston. You know, they're obviously 8.5 back of OKC. I don't think anybody's catching them, but I really do think the Nuggets have every opportunity to overtake both Memphis and Houston for the 2 seed in the West without expending their players and running them into the ground like we saw last year. I really do think that there's a legitimate opportunity here for Denver to get the 2 seed. And, you know, because like I said, I like Houston. I really like that young team and what they're building. I think they're doing it the right way. Memphis is good. I'm not as high on Memphis as I am Houston, but I think both of those teams kind of fit into the same category for me as being a year or 2 or 3 away from really competing in the West. And I think they will fall back down to earth just a little bit here as the season progresses along. But excellent win for the Nuggets tonight. Again, 144 to 109 is your final here at Ball Arena. That's going to do it for the post-game show. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. And we'll be back in just a couple of nights here. Coming up on Thursday here at Ball Arena, the Nuggets will be taking on the Sacramento Kings. And then they've got a 5-game road trip starting in Minnesota. And then it kind of goes to the East Coast, Chicago, New York, Philly, and Charlotte. So really good stretch here schedule-wise for the Nuggets to make some noise here in the Western Conference. But that's it for the post-game show tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to In the Paint right here on Altitude Sports Radio.